My wife, she always surprised about that. O sea, she tells me, o sea, you get excited like your first hunt, and I think that's the medicine of falconry. O sea, you can't stop doing it. Going to the field with Lucy and with a Marshall on top, with a telemetry, it's a nice time.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Told podcast, and this episode is now the fourth installment of our first ever international series featuring some of the awesome falconers from Mexico. And as usual, we'll go ahead and start off by giving props to some of the people that have continued to lend their support to the podcast to help continue to make it possible. The first of which, of course, is Marshall Radio Telemetry, who you also heard Martin give some props to in the intro there. And Marshall Radio Telemetry, the fine folks there, are the makers of the most carefully engineered and reliable tracking systems available, including the awesome GPS system. So if you want to find out more about their awesome products, just head to marshallradio.com. Also have to give a shout out to Pursuit Falconry and Conservation Magazine for their continued cross-promotional effort with us in promoting the art of falconry across the world. If you haven't gotten a chance to check out their bi-monthly magazine yet, you're missing out on a lot of great new falconry content, so I highly suggest you go to pursuitfalconry.co.uk and check it out and subscribe now. And of course, you have to give a shout out to the North American Falconers Association and the Falconry Fund for their continued contributions to the falconry community. In particular, the Raptor and Falconry Small Grants program that continues to stimulate innovative science, outreach, and scholarly activities for the North American falconry community, and specifically supports raptor conservation, falconry traditions, and falconers themselves. And for more information on the Falconry Fund or the North American Falconers Association, just head to falconryfund.org or n-a-f-a.com. And you can find out more about these programs and the other things that NAFA and the Falconry Fund are doing for the falconry community. All right, and the next part of our journey through Mexico takes us to Aguascalientes, where we met up with a couple more falconers, the first being Martin Guzman. He was nice enough to show us some really cool peregrine flights, and afterwards invited us to his home, where we got a chance to ask him more about his falconry experiences and personal stories. So, with that being said, I give you all Martin Guzman. Here we go. Well, thank you, Martin, for
welcome.
For having me in your home, and we're in Aguascalientes. Correct?
Aguascalientes, that's right, John.
Yeah. My pronunciation with all this stuff is truly terrible, so you'll have to forgive me, and everyone listening will have to go ahead and forgive me as well. But yeah, it's been a great few days. I can't give enough compliments to everyone for their hospitality and the kindness that they've shown me and taking me around and shown me some great hawking and some great food about 1 million times over. It's been awesome. But yeah, so what was it? But speaking of food, what was it that we just ate again?
Well, the soup was a soup of mushrooms with nopales.
Okay.
Cactus in English. And then the second plate, we had chile rellenos, a chile relleno with meat inside.
I've had that before, but it wasn't near as good.
Thank you.
As what it was here, for sure. I mean, I've had it in a lot of the other, quote-unquote authentic Mexican restaurants in the U.S., but nowhere near as good. So
thank you. I appreciate that you like it.
Yeah, but yeah, for everyone listening, I mean, we just got done basically completing probably 4-hour-ish maybe hunt?
Yes, I think we start at 9 o'clock and we got back close to 3 o'clock.
Yeah, okay.
We went to a place called La Providencia. It's a ranch from a friend. It's at 2,000 hectares of place, and it's an ideal place for hunting. I've been flying there for the last 40 years.
40 years?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, it's a long time.
40 years. Yeah, you've been flying there longer than I've been alive. That's nuts.
Well, you're a young guy yet.
Well, we get older each year, but no, that's nuts. No, that's awesome though that you've had that consistent of a spot. I don't know if I know of hardly anyone in any country so far that I've talked to that has had that much of a consistent access to a spot that hasn't been, plowed over or, developed or whatever the case is. So that's amazing.
Yes, I was born in Mexico City. And the first time I got in touch with birds, I was 12. Flying falcons in Mexico City, it's always difficult. You have to travel hours to get out. So in the first chance I had to get out from Mexico City, I came to live to Aguascalientes. I've been living here for the last 40 years. My father was born in Aguascalientes, so we always had the contact in this city. So when I visit these places, when I was young, I noticed it's an ideal place for flying. I had friends that they had beautiful ranches, as you have seen, and that's the reason I came. I came first single, and then I got married in 91, and my 3 kids were born in Aguascalientes, so I think I'm going to die here, flying falcons.
Well, I can think of worse ways to go out.
Yes.
Yeah, that's well, and I hope that your goal, comes true. I hope that all these places that you have here stay intact, and they don't get taken away from you like so many spots that we've had. And
that's true.
Yeah, so well, I mean, and so as far as the type of ranch that we were at today, I mean, how many spots do you have access to that are like that?
Well, like that ranch, maybe I have another 5 or 6 friends with that kind of places.
Man.
But the one we visit today, I think that's my favorite place. Every time we have visits from other countries, like you or other friends from Europe or Spain or wherever, that's an ideal place to go and visit, an ideal place to be around. And as you see, there is a lot of hunt. Every year we get different kinds of ducks, and it's a beautiful place to fly, be around, and have nice lunch and nice talks and nice hunting.
Yeah, it was definitely awesome today. I mean, we saw how many different species of ducks? At least 3 or 4?
I think at least from 15 to 20 different species we get every year in Aguascalientes.
We saw there's just a few of them today?
We saw pintails, we saw widgeons, we saw gadwells, 3 different kinds of teals.
Teal, yeah.
There were 2 teals that we hunt. There were green-winged teals. But that's the good part, that every time you release, there are plenty of ducks. And I'm lucky about flying falcons in Aguascalientes because our season it's very long. I get the falcons in June out of the mutes, and I start flying in July, and I end the season in March.
Wow.
So I've been hunting. It's 9 months of hunting.
That's nuts.
I see friends in USA that in Utah the weather is terrible. So they have very short periods of hunting because the weather is difficult. And as you can see in Aguascalientes, the weather is very nice. So the season it's 9 months every year. So I've been doing it for the last 35 years, hunting ducks, and I love it.
Man, and so as far as the number of falcons that you've flown, I know you flew 2 today.
That's right.
I mean, have you been flying for that whole time? Have you been flying at least an average of 2 peregrines or other?
Normally I fly 2. Other seasons I had 3, not more than 3. The falcons that you saw flying today, it's Lucy and Pia. And these birds are passage anatoms. I caught them in the same places where we fly. That's another advantage I have. If you lose a falcon, normally you find it next day around because they were born there and live around. And the 2 falcons you saw flying today, they are 13 seasons flying, so 13 years with me. Before these 2 birds, I flew another anatom passage called Golondrina. And this bird, I flew it for 18 seasons. That's the oldest falcon I've had, 18 seasons flying and hunting in the same places. Even when I started with these 2 falcons, Lucy and Pia, the 3rd falcon was Golondrina. And Golondrina got killed hunting a blue-winged teal. She crashed to the floor. She didn't die in that moment, but 2 weeks later she died. She passed away.
Was it probably from a bleed or something, a slow bleed?
Yes, it got his eye closed, and then he stopped not eating well, and 2 weeks later I found it dead in the block. But I was lucky to have it for 18 years hunting. So I estimate I killed with that bird more than 1,500 ducks in those 18 years. So that's lucky part to have it.
Yeah, that's incredible, because I think that that's kind of an attestation to just how safe the places that you fly are. I mean, it goes a lot, to be able to fly a bird for that many seasons without something bad happening to it, or it dying, or it hitting something, or whatever the case is. I mean, you definitely seem like you're very blessed to have these spots that are very safe to fly, which I'm sure is a big reason why you've been able to keep these birds for so long.
I agree with you, John. So I have friends that they normally change birds every season. The good part is the birds are born here, they are passage, and they fly in the same ponds for the last 13 seasons. So they know perfectly where is going to fly the duck. If they don't kill it in the first stoop, they'll go to another place, but they know perfectly. So the routine, I think, it helps a lot. Yeah. And what I'm very lucky is to have a 9 months season. That helps a lot.
Yeah,
so it's a long season.
Yeah, you definitely are very fortunate to have that.
Yes.
Because you mentioned people in Idaho or other falconers that are out west in the U.S.
Yes.
And, I mean, just this season is an example that just this season there's been a few friends of mine that have had very short seasons just because the winter has been so bad already,
it's hard winter, yes.
Mm-hmm, and they just haven't had any opportunities to fly just because the snow and everything has just been so terrible.
It's terrible, yes.
Yeah.
I've been flying in Utah with friends, and to walk to the Falcon maybe 50 or 100 meters, it takes you half an hour.
Yeah.
So the weather is hard.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I like from Aguascalientes, no doubt.
So has it always been like that here, though? Has there ever been any weird weather spells or anything here?
Last 2 years we had a terrible dry season. So many of the ponds that we flew today, they were dry. Mm-hmm. But normally we get water every season, rainy season. So normally we get as many ducks as you saw today.
Okay. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things that can affect your.
That's true.
Yeah,
True.
It's kind of like almost the the virus, the hemorrhagic virus with the jackrabbits. Certain little things pop up every so often to kind of mess up your seasons occasionally.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay.
I agree.
Well, that gives me a really good idea of just even the difference between here and Monterey.
Yes.
It's like I said, it's. Rodrigo was telling me that they've had a big drought issue up there as well.
That's true.
And it's not ever having been here before, and with me, mentioning several times, to friends and also on this podcast that I'm a geographical idiot. I don't really know, how the differences in locations are compared to each other in a lot of these different places that I've never been, obviously. So it's given me a really good idea the last couple of days about how the differences are in the terrain and the climates in these different areas.
I agree.
Yeah.
As you know, Mexico is a huge country, so it's so big that depending on the country that you live, the city where you live, it changed completely the weather, the climate, the altitude.
Yeah.
But Aguascalientes, I think it's a nice place to live and to fly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the reason why I've been for so long flying and living here.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like I said, I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm always happy for people that are able to maintain their falconry practice and not have it messed with. It's almost unheard of these days. So that's great.
We were talking about it. We agreed that to fly falcons and to be in the field quite often, sometimes it's always difficult. Work and travels, and I think I'm lucky that I can stay in Aguascalientes without moving and selling cars. I need to sell cars to continue flying.
Yeah, and you sell cars for Toyota, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And another important thing that we haven't talked about is the new equipment to fly falcons. Being part of Marshall and the new equipment, it makes things much easier. And as you saw today, you can release the falcon wait half an hour. The falcon can go up, down, come back, and then flush. And that's a nice thing. And to fly alone, it's also a big difference from the last equipments. And I think that's a great part of also the sport of flying falcons.
Sure, yeah, and I have the GPS system also, and I've flown it with the couple of long wings that I've had, and even just the red tails and Harrises that I've had recently, I've used it on, and really, I mean, everybody, I think initially is a little hesitant about the cost to get into a system like that. But what I tell people, and I'm sure you probably agree with this, is the first time you come close to losing a bird, or the first time you have to retrieve a bird, just that difference in getting your bird back in 10 or 15 minutes versus a day potentially, or whatever the case is.
Yes.
I mean, the first time you have to use it and you get your bird back that quick, you instantly think that this is worth every penny.
There is no price when you get your falcon back. I agree with you, John.
Yeah.
I was visiting Robert Bagley in Mallards for a weekend, and he invited me to visit his museum with all the equipment that Marshall, how it started. And
neat,
I had the opportunity to fly with each of everyone. Mm-hmm. I flew with that one, and then with that one, and then with that one. But the new one, it's no compare, and things are much easier, and it's a different way of flying. And thanks, Robert, for getting this equipment in the market.
Well, Marshall, folks, there's your plug for this episode. The people at Marshall are great too.
They're great people.
They got great customer service, and they're great to work with.
Great people, yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, as far as you kind of touched a little bit though, as far as the balance between your work and getting the privilege, you could say, to have spots that are close. I mean, how many times per week do you get to fly?
I normally go to fly Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
Normally during the week, Tuesday and Thursday, I fly to pigeons, and then the weekend I go hunting ducks. That's my normal routine. Vacations, December and other vacations, I normally take a week, 10 days flying, and always that we have friends from other places. It's a good excuse to also stop working and go flying like today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, so is there a particular reason why you mainly just fly the pigeons during the week, or
for time? So normally during the week I have to work, so I take a couple of hours, go flying, and get back to work. And then the weekend that you have more time, then we go for hunting.
Okay.
That's normally what we do.
Well, and I keep forgetting too that the way that you guys do your breaks and things like that around your work schedule is different than in the. I mean, I always forget that, and that's another reason why I like hearing about the differences in the cultures with some, because I mean, we get a half-hour break, at best,
Yes.
if we're at work, and so I mean, being able to fit that into a lunch break for us, we'd have to have a special job or work at home or something like that,
Sure.
So I mean, so do you get like an hour or two on average?
Yes, normally I take 2 hours.
Okay.
To go hunting flying pigeons, and during the weekend take maybe 4 or 5 hours. The good thing, as you saw today, John, is the distance from Aguascalientes to the hunting areas. It's very near, mm-hmm. and that helps a lot. So in half an hour we could be hunting ducks and getting back. So it won't take you more than an hour travel in car and being in places like you visit today.
Yeah, well, and yeah, compared to the type of drives that guys like Enrique and Rodrigo and them have to make,
That's
an
true.
hour and a half to 2 hours or whatever. That's
Yes.
Obviously way better.
Yes. Once I was invited in Spain to go flying with some Spanish guys, and only to take to the hunting place, we drove close to 4 hours.
Wow.
And then 4 hours getting back. I really admire those falconers because it's a long time in the road, but I think everyone that has a passion will understand that when you want to be flying and hunting, not even 4 hours of cars will stop you. And well, I'm lucky to have it so near, and I think that's the reason why I'm living in Aguascalientes.
Yeah, I mean, getting to fly your bird 4 times a week is still great.
You maintain it in shape. That's true.
I mean, I think all of us would, still prefer to be able to fly almost every day. But, I mean, having that day off in between to also kind of crop up your bird and do things like that, I'm sure probably helps also with your weight management things too, right?
I agree. Totally, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Like I said, as far as I guess this would be a good time to go ahead and get a little bit of information then about, you said you grew up in Mexico City.
That's right. I was born in Mexico City. The first falcon I had the opportunity to get in my hands and touch, I was 12. I feel really lucky that since that moment, I always been having a bird in the garden. I love to have a bird to fly. As I told you, flying birds from living in Mexico City is long distance to get out, lots of traffic. So the best decision I took is to come and live at Aguascalientes, as I told you, and I stayed here. So I've been flying. I started when I was young with lots of different kinds of birds, Harris hawk, red tails, and then I imported a goshawk from Europe. Then I flew to golden eagles. And at the end, when I started with peregrines and passage peregrines, then I flew lots of peregrines, tundra peregrines. We used to go trap them in the Gulf. But then I discovered the anatoms in the 80s, and I think I got in love with them. And since then, I've been flying, as I told you, only anatoms, only passage. I try with males, but I prefer to hunt with females, for the size of hunts that you can do, and the risk when they are in the field, it's a little bit lower also.
Okay. Well, and as far as whenever you were a kid and you discovered that first bird, did you have any knowledge of falconry at all?
No. I knew that you can hunt. I always like hunting. I like to shoot also with shotguns. And then suddenly I knew that you can train a bird and hunt. So I got it together, and as I told you, I got the first red tail when I was 12, and since that day, I think you have it in your blood. When you have it, you can live it, and that's my life. That's part of my life. As I told you, this season I had a surgery in my leg. I had to stop flying for 4 months, and I was close to kill someone. So it wasn't easy.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, nobody wants to be bedridden for that long on a normal circumstance, let alone when it's taking you away from something that you love to do. And so, I mean, I totally understand. But what were you primarily, hunting initially then with some of the first birds that you had, like that red tail around?
Yes,
Mexico
rabbits, mainly rabbits. In Mexico City, I used to go hunting also rats. I used to live close to a place where they have lots of horses. So I used to go with the Harris hawk hunting rats, and then we got the tundras, and we used to hunt the las garzas, the white garzas. And then from then, I came to Aguascalientes and started doing it with dogs, and then we continue hunting dogs. As I told you, starting the season before, the dogs normally get to Aguascalientes at the end of June, July, or beginning of August. Before that, we get the curlews, the sarapito that we call it, and the ganga, that they are the 2 passage birds that they cross in the rainy season in Aguascalientes. So I start the season hunting them, and then in August, that we start getting dogs, I continue hunting dogs till March, as I told you.
Okay. I mean, so going back a little bit then, how did you get into the whole hunting rats thing? Like, how did you fall into that? I mean, well, aside from, you said that you had places that you had horses or whatever, right?
Yes, it's in an hippodromo where they race horses, and my father used to ride horses all his life. So I used to go when I was young with him, and I used to see a lot of movement on rats around Las Caballerizas, where you keep the horses or where they keep the food. So I got it together. The Harris and the red tails are ideal for killing anything. So I think that was the easiest way to start hunting. And rats, it was very funny to kill them. I think it's something like the guys in America, I see it, that they hunt squirrels with red tails.
Yeah.
So I think it's to be in touch with wild and to see the hunt and seeing different things. I think, yes, I remember hunting rats now 46 years later, pero it came with this conversation.
So did you just walk around with the bird on your glove and just...
Yes, and sometimes the paca, where they use it for feeding the horses, you start getting it up. So they start running, and at the end you leave 2 or 3. And at the end, when you lift those 3, they run lots of rats.
That's funny.
That's a different way of hunting.
Yeah, it is. Well, and I've talked to people before also that, kind of to get their start, and whenever they didn't really have access to a lot of different places to hunt, and when they were first getting their falconry, kind of wings under them, so to speak. Pun intended, I guess. They would go to landfills and just kind of hunt rats around landfills and things like that too. I've heard those kind of stories as well. But.
An important thing is in that age, 12, 13, 14, you don't drive. So the only way is to walk. And that was a place close to my house. So that was ideal to get your bird and start seeing some blood and hunting.
Mm. Well, and how hard was it to get to those places when you were a kid in Mexico City?
Walking distance, so 10 minutes, 15 minutes walking distance.
Wow, so I'm sure that changed a lot with, like the construction and stuff over time, and the growth of that city as well.
Totally, sure. Yes. In the moment I have the opportunity to get out of Mexico City, to live in a city that big, more than 20 million people live in Mexico City, I wasn't prepared to live in a huge city that size. Traffic and everything is quite difficult. So, in the moment I had the opportunity to get out of Mexico City, I came to Aguascalientes. I came with some friends, Falconer friends, and they also stayed hunting here. And I think we have a nice group of hunting people.
Good. It makes all the difference.
Yes.
Yeah. Whenever you have a lot of people around that are good to be around.
I agree with that, yes.
Yeah. Well, and so since you've had the ability to go hawking in several different areas, Spain, the United States, I mean, just out of curiosity, what in your opinion kind of separates falconry in Mexico compared to, some of these other countries?
I have the opportunity to be in USA, in Wyoming, in Utah. I also I was a couple of years ago in Scotland. I've been in Spain hunting, and I can tell you, in each place I visited, you find great falconers. Different styles, different kind of birds, different weather, countryside, but at the end they get you like you know them for lots of years, and that's the great thing, the great part of falconry, and that's what we do also here in Mexico. So even if you don't know the people, they are always welcome. And I've been seeing hunting grouses and the partridge and even dogs, and every part has his style and his way of hunting. And that's what I like of traveling and seeing all the falconers hunting.
Oh, and is there any particular thing, though, as far as, being here in Mexico? I mean, do you think there's anything that's kind of more unique that the falconry in Mexico kind of offers as far like compared to some of these other places?
I think one of the main things that a big difference with Mexico, with the USA, where I've been flying with falconers, is the weather. I think the weather here helps a lot. Being flying in Wyoming in the winter time, you can cry.
It's terrible.
It's terrible. And if you are not used to it, it's difficult. That's what I admire of the American falconers, the weather. With that pitcher, Steve Chilgrin, that I was lucky to be flying with them, the weather is hard when you are not used to it. And then when I get back to Aguascalientes, I say thanks. Thanks, Aguascalientes, that we have a nice weather.
Good. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, just having the consistency in the weather and the opportunity to have those 9-month seasons, I'm sure is that in and of itself is very unique compared to a lot of places that have more, more designated seasons.
Yes, and it's a long distance. It's a long season. As I estimate that I killed from 120 to 150 ducks in that period, depending on the season, depending how many water. But that's the lucky part. Also, the lucky part to have so many different kinds of ducks, and the weather that helps a lot. Mm-hmm. Sometimes, like today, maybe it could be windy, but normally the 90% of the time we have beautiful weather and close.
Well, and the opportunities that you've had then to see some of the falconry in some of these other countries, what's been your favorite thing that you've seen? Or
I think being with that pitcher and Steve Children hunting in Wyoming, I think that was amazing. The grouse hunting, it's amazing, even with the weather. Seeing those birds, that size of hunt flying, and the feathers, seeing the dogs. I used labs to get the dogs out, but seeing a pointer working in the field for hours with that weather and that time, that really likes me. And it's a thing that I don't do here in Aguascalientes. So Wyoming hunting grouse, I think I'll remember for lifetime.
Yeah, I've not gotten an opportunity to do that yet. I've ironically enough, I've been working at a hospital, before a couple times, not more than 40 minutes away from the House of Grouse, and for one reason or another, I just, because of different circumstances, I still haven't gotten a chance to see any hunts or anything up there.
Oh, but don't pass your time without seeing it, because it's really worth it.
I'm sure it'll happen at some point or somewhere.
That little place that Steve has is beautiful, really beautiful. To have that size of area and moving around and seeing wild animals and eagles and everything around, it's different and beautiful.
Well, I mean, as far as other types of prey, we've kind of had this conversation the last couple of days during these long drives and things, just to occupy time. But we've kind of talked about the different things that you kind of would like to fly or would like to hunt that you don't normally or wouldn't get the normal opportunities to do that. I mean, is there anything prey-wise or even like a different type of bird? I know you've flown so many different types of birds, as you said.
Yes,
but
I start with different kinds of birds, but the last, I think, 35 years I stopped and I stayed with passage and atoms. I tried with males, and I wasn't that lucky for X razones, and I think if I get a new falcon, it's going to be another female passage and atom. To be 3 in the team.
You just love them that much.
And I'm not sure, but I think with age, what you want to do is what you try that works. Mm-hmm. And I'm sometimes friends that they breed birds, they offer me some new birds, and I think I won't move what I'm doing till today. Well, maybe my falcons, they are 13 years old, maybe another 5, I'll get them flying, and maybe I'll get a new one, but I think it's going to be a passage one.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No,
nothing wrong with that at all. I mean, is there anything that you wish that you could hunt other than ducks?
Starting the season, sarapitos and gangas, and then continue with ducks. Mm-hmm. Those 3 are my passion every season, and I hope I have many years in front to continue doing it.
So you're definitely one of the types that's just totally content and in love still with what you're doing, and don't even wish for anything else.
I think so. I think the older you get, you don't want to get new risks and new adventures. What we do when we get together, that we invite friends from different places, even from the state or whatever, they bring different kinds of birds. There are friends that fly merlins or a goshawk or even a golden eagle. So that's nice because we organize different kinds of hunts, but everyone is specialized in their bird. I prefer that. If I know a guy that's flying a good merlin in Querétaro, well, I'll call him and invite him. Would you like to come flying your bird? And we get together and it's share. Yes. I think that's easier than to get your own bird and try to get hunting with it.
So you kind of live vicariously and scratch your itch to do other things through other people then.
Yes, I think that's the good thing of falconry. Yes, sharing it.
Yeah.
Sharing it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with sharing diversity with
Yes.
other people's experiences
Yes.
too.
And everything is new for you. When you see another kind of bird that you never flew, it's always nice to see how they do it, how they do all the hunting around it.
Yeah. Well, like today, for example,
Yes.
I mean, I told you that, today's actually the first day that I've seen, some peregrines stoop, pigeons or whatever the case is. But this is the first time that I've actually gotten to see a peregrine actually take wild game and, actually get some ducks, So
I'm happy.
it's great.
I'm happy that you like it, John.
Yeah.
And the good thing of this is that no hunting, it's the same. It's amazing. And you said it this morning in the field. When you see the hunting, it's going to start, you get anxious, you get excited, like it was going to be my first flight. And that's the passion of falconry. You have it in your blood and it excites you.
I was able to identify it instantly. You got those binoculars out, you got the binos out, and as soon as you saw those ducks on that fly, it's like you couldn't get those binos back on the console quick enough and get out of the truck quick enough to get your bird ready. I mean, it was really kind of amusing, just because I can relate, I mean, any falconer that knows, that feeling understands and
Yes.
gets a little bit of a kick out of seeing that in other falconers.
My wife, she always surprised about that. She tells me, you get excited like your first hunt. And I think that's the medicine of falconry. You can't stop doing it. To be in contact with the field, being hunting, seeing the dog works, and all the talks and lunches and everything we do around, it's what maintains my hobby alive.
Well, yeah, because otherwise, why do it? If you don't get that excited and you're bored by it or you're not having much fun, then there's
Yes.
no reason to do it, right?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree. I think in life we have to have a hobby, any hobby, but something that passions you and moves you around. That's, I think, what falconry do to me.
Well, and as far as the other birds that you've flown, this is the part where I definitely like to get some good stories out of the people that we have on, as guests. And first of all, I want to go a little bit more into, a couple of the experiences that you've had with, like out of these peregrines that you've flown, which one has been that you think your best one? And
Lucy, the bird that you saw today flying, I think is one of the best birds I've had. It has a great character. It's a beautiful bird. And I think Lucy, I'm lucky that today I can tell you I've been flying after 46 years, my best bird, and it's Lucy. When I was with the problem with my leg, she also got sick. She was close to die, and she recovered, and now she's flying again. But Lucy, I think, is my best bird. After Lucy, I think Golondrina, the bird that flew it for 18 seasons. Golondrina, and then lots of different kinds of birds. But these two birds, I think that they are my favorite birds, Golondrina and Lucy.
And is there a particular, I don't know, like out of the traits that you said that they had special traits? I mean, is there one particular trait of theirs that kind of stands out more than others that you like about them?
Lucy, she always waits on top of me, and that helps a lot. As you can see, she can move around, but it's very rare when I have to go and look for her. Different with Pia. Pia, the other bird, she's more. If she waits too much, sometimes she goes hunting alone. Exactly. Mm-hmm. So that's what I appreciate of Lucy. Things look easier, and she's doing it for the last 13 years. And going to the field with Lucy and with a marshal on top, with a telemetry, it's a nice time to go hunting.
Well, I mean, if there's a trait to admire, that would be it, I'm sure.
Yes.
Especially when a bird that, I mean, some of these altitudes or elevations that you're reaching with these birds.
Yes.
I mean, like the couple of ducks that that were caught today, about how high was
the pintail? Lucy came from 700 meters. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure in your measurements.
If anybody listens and wants to do the conversion, they can do it. They can break out their calculator and do it.
in La Providencia, where we flew today, I got a measure from Lucy getting a stoop in 285 kilometers. Mm-hmm. I think it's close to 200 miles, more or less. But so that's a good thing of that place that we visit today. It's very open area, so you can leave birds to go very high.
What's been some of the highest altitudes that you've had?
2 kilometers is normally very high.
Wow.
The higher they get, the faster they get down. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. But then you have to calculate the next pond, how far it is. Mm-hmm. So if the bird is too high, the dogs will get to the next pond. And then you have to calculate the stoop.
Mm. And as far as the style that you've pretty much flown these peregrines with, I mean, you still pretty much kind of prefer doing the thermals and things like that, right?
Yes, sometimes I go flying also in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. At that time, you don't get thermals. Mm-hmm. The birds won't go that high, but they maybe get 150, 200 meters. But I prefer to go when the weather is warmer, normally from 10 to 12 to 1 o'clock, like today we did it. But sometimes if I have other things to do, I go 7 o'clock, getting the sun out, and start flying at that time.
Oh, okay.
The falcon won't go that high, but at the end, to go and make a kill to a pigeon or to a dog, it will be enough. And the main thing flying during the week is to exercise the birds. So that's the main thing, to get them out, and then to get the weekend with the bird that it's in shape. That's important.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I mean, there wouldn't be like I said, you wouldn't be able to achieve those altitudes if they weren't fit.
Yes, yes. So. Along of these years flying these two birds, I can be telling you lots of histories about it. But yes, every time you go to the field, it's a new thing, a new way to hunt, to kill, a new way to approach the dog, and that's what I love of falconry. You never. In the moment you release the bird, you won't know what will happen. Yeah. Sometimes it's a good day, sometimes it wasn't that good.
Yeah, well, transition and kind of tell a couple of those stories. I mean, we definitely love hearing those as well. So, I mean, you mentioned that you could go on for a little bit. Tell a few of these stories then that you, some of the more notable flights that you've had with some of these birds then.
Yes, hunting like 2 days ago, going hunting with a nice, normally to have a nice hunting day is to get white skies, like 2 days ago. That's important because then you can see the bird higher. Like today, as you saw the blue sky, it's difficult to see the bird. Then you have to look at the cell to see the bird. But with blue skies, and then if you get white clouds, it's easier to fly. You can leave the birds go higher, and then the stoops will sound much better. Today, as you notice it was a windy day, so the sound with the bird when it stoops, you can sometimes not hear it. But that's a good thing. There is not a day that looks to another one, and that's what I like of this hobby.
Well, and as far as just some of the different flights that some of these birds have had then, is there a particular stoop or a particular flight or like a particular way in which the dog and the bird kind of work together that sticks out in your mind? Or
the second flight of Lucy, you notice it that she came very high, came from underneath, mm-hmm. and she tried to hit the dog from underneath. Mm-hmm. I try to flush the dogs when the bird is out of position, so that I leave the dogs to get higher, and then you can see that kind of flight that the falcon gets from underneath, hit the dog, and before getting on the floor, grabs him in the air, but dead. Mm-hmm. So I hit it in the first stoop, and then it grabs it before getting to the floor. Mm-hmm. That's one of my favorites. Flights of Lucy, and she tried to do it today. Yeah. But she missed it, as you noticed it. Mm-hmm. It was a windy day, and that gets difficult. But I think that's what my favorite. I've seen it doing it maybe 4 or 5 times, and it's amazing. Hitting, killing the dog, and before getting to the land, grab it in the air. It's beautiful. Even when Diego Pareja, a Spanish guy, was flying here in Aguascalientes, I think like 4 or 5 years ago, the last flight of Lucy, he brought a guy, Danny Salas, a Spanish guy that had a really professional camera. And he filmed Lucy doing that in her last flight. And it was beautiful. O sea, I'll send it that so that you can see it. O sea, in the same place where we visit today. O sea, hitting and then grabbing it before falling to the floor, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
That's amazing. I'll send you the video.
Yeah, and as far as like, what was there another type of flight that sticks out in your mind?
I think that one is one of the best because I've seen it lots of times. So that's a good thing when you get a nice camera, good quality of filming, then you can repeat it and see it. Every time I go to the field at night when I go to bed, I repeat and remember and try to past and remember all the flights I've seen at least in that day. And that's another thing I like to do.
I mean, it's important to have those memories.
Yes.
Because as we get older, we forget more.
I agree with you.
But well, as far as I mean, just out of curiosity too, with some of the earlier birds that you flew whenever you were a young kid or starting to get into it, was there a particular bird in your early days that kind of was
I had a Harris hawk that I had it for maybe 4 or 5 years. I remember it because I think it was one of my first birds. But after seeing Anatoms hunting dogs, I think that's my favorite part. O sea, with age, you change your
every other memory.
Priorities.
Yeah, every other memory just pales in comparison.
Yes, but peregrines, I think that's my passion, and I hope to continue flying peregrines for lots of years.
Well, I hope that's the case.
I'm happy to have you here.
Well, I'm happy. I'm happy to be here, and I'm so happy that that all this has worked out without anything majorly going wrong. Knock on wood. But well, I mean, I think it would be good to go ahead and just close in with something else that I like to ask a lot of guests, and I've been doing this more lately. But from your point of view, having flown birds for so many years now, a longer amount of years than I've been alive, and I mean, with all that wealth of experience that you have, is there anything that you would like to pass on to a little bit of a piece of advice or a bit of knowledge or something, as far as what you think might be useful to other generations?
I think what I like to do is, if there is a guy that wants to see what I'm doing in Aguascalientes, he's always invited. So someone that is interested in seeing what we are doing in Aguascalientes, like we fly falcons, how we hunt, why we fly passage, it's always invited because, as you know, falconry is not that common. So when you find another persons that they have the same passion, that's a great part of falconry. Getting together, getting people from other countries and show them how we fly here, it's always nice. So, as I told you, an important part is to go flying and hunting and seeing a nice stoop and trying not only to kill the dogs, to see the falcon fly as high and as fast as they do it, because it's always amazed me how they fly. But everything that goes around the falconry, as you know, and I told you, then we go to have big lunches and lots of tequila and nice talks and lots of lies, but that's great part of falconry. Yeah. Get together. We've been the last 2 years, as we all know, pandemic has been terrible for everyone, but I think we are close to get out of this, and we'll get together again. And it's always nice to have people like you that are interested on falconry and hunting and to knowing other things on Mexico. They are always invited. Happy to have you here, John.
Well, and like I said, thank you so much, and I'm very happy that there are at least some falconers, and luckily I've been fortunate enough to meet a fair amount of them who are so willing to kind of cultivate those relationships and share knowledge and experiences, and just build those relationships, because they understand that in order for this to continue for future generations and things, it's important to do that. So
yes, today I'm flying with friends, Falconers friends, that they are 25 years younger than me. And that's nice, because they're the new generations. They're pushing the sport to maintain. And that's happy. I'm happy about it. To see new people with the same passion that they want to be in the field and be hunting, it's always nice, because maybe in the next years forward, they're going to take us flying.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, like I said, I hope that then in turn, those next generations will do the same.
Yes.
And hopefully this will continue to be around for many more generations. I mean, it's only going to keep getting more challenging, unfortunately.
I agree with that, yes. Yeah. I agree, and I think the passion of falconry, it's growing every year, and I think this won't stop.
No, I don't think so either, and I just hope that it keeps growing in the right way, just like everybody else does.
That's important.
And,
That's important. To have a bird and not flying it, it's better to release it or not to have it. I agree with that.
Yeah.
So the bird has to be in the field and hunting and flying. I think that's... I don't like breeding because I don't know nothing about it. But I think a bird has to be flying and hunting. That's what I think, my personal...
Well, that's pretty much the definition of falconry.
Yes.
I mean, if you're not hunting with a trained bird of prey, then it's not really falconry.
And the closer as it will be doing what in the wild. So if that bird is not in my garden and is not flying 4 or 5 times a week, it's supposed to be doing the same things, hunting and eating.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. So, like I said, thank you again very, very much. And like I said, everyone's hospitality, including yours, has been so amazing, and I really appreciate it. And you taking the time to to do this week with us. So.
We always get a nice excuse every time, like your visit, to not going working and go flying. So, so always it's a good excuse when you have a guest. And welcome to Aguascalientes, John. And I hope it's not the first time. The last one.
Yeah, I hope so too, and we'll see what happens. But I would love to come back. This has been great.
Thank you for visiting us.
Thank you, and I guess it'd be a good time to go have another beer and some tequila then.
I'm ready for it.
Let's go do it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.